Our owners drive results, right? Agree? Yes, agree. Yes, that's why we're all up here today. And thanks to Bill for introducing the panelists for me. They are also I've asked them to, by way of giving a little background about themselves, I have asked them to answer the question, why do you think that Impact invited you here today, and why did you say yes? I know some of you kind of moved some mountains to actually get here and to make the trip from far away, particularly Ron from Canada. Why'd you do it? Start with Patrick. We'll just go right down the line.
Well, I got to say, I didn't move any mountains. I came an hour up the road. But I think primarily it's about relationships. I've known some people in this business quite a while. One of them's with Impact, Teresa Magnus. A year or two ago, she asked me to attend the last conference. I thought it was great. And I think these conferences are largely about relationships, maintaining them and making new ones, and we're in a relationship-based business.
Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit about your background.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I grew up a construction brat, moved around the world. My dad was a construction manager and a project manager for Bechtel. I thought I was going to be a scientist, but it was in my blood. Mm-hmm. And I've been in construction now for quite a while. I started off with a large EPC firm, worked there for about 10 years, and for the last 15 or 16, I've been with the utility in Tampa.
Great, great. So Ron Harry, you're the one who came down all the way from Canada.
Mm-hmm. So the reason I came down was I used to work for the Building Trades of Alberta in Canada. That was my intro into the construction industry, very familiar with the Ironworkers Union, and have been to the Impact Conference, in fact, in Orlando before, quite some time ago. And they said we could hang out with our largest trading partner and a bunch of Canadians. How many Canadians are in the room today?
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Wow.
So that's great.
Good.
And you know, a key, again, it's about the relationship between the contractor, in this case, the Ironworkers Union, and the client, and working on relationships. And we appreciate the fact of what the ironworkers do on Shell's job sites in Canada and the U.S. So here to speak about those relationships and try to get some feedback as well.
Great, thanks. Robin?
So how many Southerners are in the audience? Show of hands.
Yeah.
All right. I'm here to represent Southern Company, so naturally, as you might guess, I'm a Southerner from Birmingham. Didn't come that far, but where's Kevin Hilton?
Kevin?
Back of the room. All right, Kevin. For all of us, we didn't appreciate the victory lap at the beginning of this today about the War of the Northern Aggression. So just to get that out there first.
Okay.
Just kidding. Everything's good. Southern Company, I think, I don't think I was invited to do this because of something I've done. I represent a company that has partnered with labor for many, many years. We have done nothing but build that even stronger, and really right in line with the way that Impact works, building contractors, owners, and labor together. We're starting some things at Southern Company this year with Southern Safety Trilaterals. That's all about bringing the labor, the contractors, and us together. In local regions, I know that we're doing some Southern tripartite safety meetings now, where we're really trying to reach out and touch the contractors and the labor. The key to safety to us, and I don't mean to get too far into safety, but that's one of our passions, is about touching the worker. Because our safety culture is built around the fact that there are about 31.5 billion seconds in a year. And an accident takes less than a second to happen. We cannot watch or impose safety. Safety is a culture, and it has to be something that the worker as well as us believe in. So with that, my background, I grew up not a construction brat, but a power company brat, moving around Alabama as my father worked for Alabama Power. I've been in projects and construction area for about 17, 18 years now. I've been with the company for about 24.
Great. And Ron. I'm kidding. 2 Rons. I'm kidding.
The other Ron.
If
Two Rons don't make a right. No.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm Ron Koshwood. I'm with Ford Motor Company. Been there the last 27 years. I have 44 years in the construction industry. I started right when I got out of high school, actually doing reinforced concrete steel detailing. I also did structural steel detailing back in the days when you used, straight edge, T-square, calculators, slide rules, all that sort of stuff. So been around a long time. I lived in Germany for a while. I've been with Ford over in Germany, and I'm right now in charge of construction services. And with that, as was said, we have a tremendous focus on safety at Ford. In fact, this coming week, there's a very, very high level from our global executive vice president and those that directly report to him, focused just on safety. Because at Ford, recently we experienced a couple of safety incidences, one which I think I'll share with you in a little bit. But it's extremely, extremely important that your members go home the way they came to work. And with the 120-year history that you have, we want to keep that going. And as far as why did I come, is primarily to not only receive and hear what's important to the iron workers, but also to share what's important as an owner. What are our challenges? What are we facing? So that's why I'm here.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate the invite.
Yeah. And Egan.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me here. Appreciate sharing all of the information that you guys offer. I think this is a really good organization, Impact. It's one of the few, I guess, trade groups I think that I'm aware of that actually has a process, an organization that tries to get the craftspeople and the contractors to work better together, which me as an owner, that is a great thing for building our projects and being more successful. Myself, I've been in the industry for about 35 plus years. Started in the field, like to get my boots dirty, do a lot of travel. I guess once you do that for a number of years, it kind of gets in your blood. I didn't go back to the office, did some project management, engineering, a lot of things like that. But in the last 15 or 20 years here, I've been in the construction organization. I have run various parts of our organization, from the whole global organization to today I'm currently working strictly on the Americas. So, we talked, I guess someone talked about people from the South, Canada. We work in all those areas, so I'm very familiar with that. I like to do the travel. And coming here to this organization, I think it's a really good opportunity for myself to see what's going on in your industry, the ironworkers, and also to meet new people, new contractors, as far as for us being more successful in the future in getting new organizations into our construction sites.
Great, thanks to all of you. Great introductions. And next, I'd like to, we had the typical con call, and we talked with Kevin Hilton on the phone and talked over some of the issues that are important to owners. And it popped into my mind to invite these owners to bring a slide of a project or an issue, something that illustrates an issue, one of the issues that they think are particularly important, that they'd like to get a message across out to all of you. So they actually said yes, and they brought something to show. And so we're going to start again with Patrick. We'll go down the line one more time, then we'll break into some more casual conversation. So Patrick, show your slide.
Okay.
I mean, they will show your slide.
All right.
We should be able to see it there. Yeah.
Popping up.
We're ready for the first slide, please.
Well, when it does pop up, you're going to see two pictures, a before and after picture. And I think the pictures tell a story. It tells a couple of different stories that are prevalent in our industry right now. One is the story of owners' organizations. We're all here representing owners' organizations, and it's a challenge to maintain the capability of an owner's organization. Why is that? None of us work for construction companies. We are all service providers to some other business, an automotive manufacturer, power plants, petrochemicals. Our senior executives don't necessarily understand what we do or understand the value we provide. So there's a challenge there, and there's more to that as well. Like all of you are aware, we are getting older as an industry, we're getting older as a country, and many of our organizations have a tendency to look for cost reductions through offering packages. And when that happens, we lose the smartest people. They're the senior people, they're the ones who know what's going on. So, no picture yet. So,
stop 1 second, and,
okay.
and then we'll see if they could get. Could somebody run backstage and tell them that we haven't got we haven't got Patrick's slide on? I think there's someone right down there.
There we go.
Oh, we
There,
got it.
it's there.
Yay. Nope, that's us.
That is
and
it.
That's that. Okay, got it.
Yes.
We're good.
So what you're looking at there is a precipitator hopper. So the assumption there is y'all know what that is, but it's a big box off the tail end of a coal-fired power plant that collects coal ash and prevents it from going out into the atmosphere. It then collects in these hoppers. And we were doing a pretty substantial rebuild on a precipitator. Now, the really interesting bits of a precipitator are up above this, and that's what we were all focused on. We're hanging new plates and wires. They create an electrostatic field that helps separate the ash. And we're spending, this is probably a $15 to $20 million project, and we weren't too worried about a little bit of steel replacement down at the bottom of these hoppers. We're short-staffed, so that tells the story of the owner's organization. We don't have the numbers of people, and we don't have the capability we had 5 years ago. So I don't know that you can tell from where you're sitting, but the picture on the left is a pretty ugly weld. You do not have to be certified as a visual inspector to tell that is an ugly weld. And I tested that. My 15-year-old daughter looked at that and said, wow, that looks really, really bad. So it's a little embarrassing that we let that slip. And we did not notice that weld, and not just that weld, but a whole bunch of other welds. We did not notice that until the contractor had demobilized. Okay, so at the bottom right, what you're looking at there is the fix. And I chose this for a lot of reasons, but one is the people who fixed that are represented in this room. This was North American Iron Workers who came in at the last minute and put some plate over the really ugly welds and put some really good-looking welds on. So, so the other story this is telling is about our skilled workforce. That is not a typical weld, even for someone who's brand new. This is pretty bad workmanship, and it's not the kind of thing we usually see. It was very surprising to see something that bad. The risk that we run as owners now of poor quality work has been increasing. Over the last 2 years, we have seen it, and we no longer say we have an impending workforce issue. We say we are in it because we are living it, and there's a little bit of the proof.
Thanks, Patrick. Ron, next slide, please.
So the key of this logo, it's not a Shell logo. It's a logo that shows Shell Scotford, which is a refinery east of Edmonton, with a refinery, a chemicals plant, and an upgrader. And that's the Shell site. And then the building trades are all the unions, including the Iron Workers Union, and then the contractors. And it's a tripartite initiative. And speaking to safety, this initiative actually kicked off with a safety tripartite on this site. And to just reiterate what you were saying earlier is that the folks on this site are actually living and breathing the safety and actually have the culture of that the client and the contractor and the union and themselves care about their brothers and sisters on the job site and work together. So that's the biggest, even outside of productivity or completing a job or working on a turnaround, that comes second in Shell. The safety is first, always has been first, always will be first, okay? So, and they have that culture on that site because of the fact that they feel comfortable in reaching out even directly to the client on the job site when our staff are walking around to talk about safety. The other benefit of that is just to be, they asked me if I would be frank, so I went to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I'm probably going to be pretty frank. So the point here is that the message that goes from the contractor to the client isn't always the message that the union thinks is going to the client, and the message that's going from the contractor back to the union, or vice versa, between any one of those three parties. Nobody is innocent, and people don't do it purposely, but the message gets changed. And the key with this is that we all sit in a room together, whether it be a project, whether it be a turnaround, and we talk together as a tripartite, and we work out things, everything from a basic, how come there's only this many microwaves and it takes me 25 minutes when I only have a 30-minute break to heat my lunch up? Like, really? Not to say that happened on a Shell site, but that's just an example of how detailed this can get to. So it's about the quality of the craft, the ironworkers on our job sites. It's about, you know, the safety of those crafts, so the quality of life, the safety of those craft, and then lastly, productivity. An example of this is we went from, on one sector of that site, from 23% time on tools in a matter of 6 weeks to, I think it was 72% time on tools, okay? So we tracked that, the owner tracked that, we did that with the contractor, that was on maintenance. But again, it all relates back to this partnership. So what I'd like you to take away today is, and I'm always on my soapbox saying this, is Shell is not the contractor. Shell does not want to be the contractor. Shell hires a contractor along with its significant partner, in this case, the Ironworkers Union, and we expect that contractor to bring their employees, whether they be highly qualified trades professionals or they happen to be construction management, and execute the job, okay? Your jurisdictional issues over the past 15 years I've seen have improved dramatically. Although the key is, again, getting back to the message, is it's all well and good that somebody agrees on a markup and says, you know, this person will do this work and that craft will do that work. But if the membership that goes on the job site doesn't really know that, then how is that going to be effective, right? And the same thing about, you know, working with the employees of the contractor on the job site. If the contractor is working with their employees, the union leadership needs to know what's going on, because again, you have a disconnect. So, you know, with the cost environment in the oil and gas industry currently at the moment, we need to be safe, which typically improves productivity, and it's proven that safety helps productivity and efficiency. So we need your help in delivering results, because on a global level, Shell competes for capital in their countries around the world. We in Canada, no different than our colleagues in the United States of America, have to compete for capital. On top of that, when we get that capital, then we have to go to the market, and then we have to put that out into the open market for people to bid on that. So the more effective you can become by being safe first and productive will bring more work to your contractors. And essentially, in the end of the day, it's not about me, it's about putting men and women to work on the tools to take care of their families and to make sure they go home safely.
Great.
And then the next slide, which come up first, there's a link there on the Building Trades website. They have all kinds of detailed information about the initiative if anybody wants to read about it and the culture behind it. You can just scroll through there and you scroll down. We're not going to go through the videos, but you just click on those plus tabs and it goes all the details about, you know, what is goal 0, and you can scroll down and get into the detail about it. You know, who is involved and what are they doing, and then they have updated tripartite newsletters. So, you know, we're always working with the Ironworkers Union in the locals in Alberta, and they've helped us out on our job sites, and we appreciate that. And the Ironworkers help Shell out. And you know, we have a big workforce development challenge coming up, as we all, you know, we talk about the gray contractors, and I think, you know, contrary to what people think, it's everybody that's having that hair color, including myself. But unfortunately, you know, we have to deal with that, and we can't bury our heads in our sand, and we're looking at workforce development. And you know, you guys do a good job of having lots of apprentices on your rebar and your structural, and that's where we got to focus. So thank you very much to Impact for inviting me today, and Shell's here as your partner to work with you to make our business viable in North America.
Thanks much. And Robin.
All right.
Let's show Robin's slide, please.
So I talked to one of my construction managers, told him I was coming here and I needed a slide with a picture. And he said, oh, I got just the one. And he actually had 3. He said, show them a crane, and show them a big crane. They get excited about cranes, so there you go. That's Manitowoc 21,000. What's interesting about that crane is it is on our Bowen site, where we've built 2 bag houses, and on 2 other units done a total rebuild on the precipitators, as you mentioned just a moment ago. This crane, logistically on that site with a 200-foot boom and a 200-foot luffing jib, takes up a lot of room, and it's had to be moved 5 to 6 times to date. All the previous times we moved that crane, we used a third-party crane specialist to come in and move that crane. I think the fastest they moved it was about 45 to 50 days.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's tear down to reassembly. We actually, because we have a resource within Southern Company, and I'd like to say he's the most brilliant engineer and the technical PhD, but in reality, he's just one of the smartest guys I know when it comes to cranes and rigging. He's sitting right here, and he's an iron worker who came to work for us, Mike Watson.
Yay. Woo.
And Mike has become our system expert on cranes and rigging, helping us and helping our plants. On this one, he worked through a detailed plan and worked with our local iron workers out of the 387. Mr. Duffield's here somewhere too, to put together the plan. But not only put together the plan, they reviewed it beforehand and bought into the plan. They worked 30 days. I think they lost 3 days to rain. And they disassembled and reassembled this crane in that time. Manitowoc said it was one of the fastest turnarounds they'd seen on a crane of this size for the logistics there. This also had a maxer on a 59-foot radius, so it took up a lot of room and had to be sat precisely. They sat that crane in an area where when it had to be stood up, the luffing jib came within 6 inches of the coal conveyor, but that was the only place it could go. They nailed it, first try. 90% of the lifts on that were critical lifts, so you had heavy loads, and they did it with 0 recordables, 0 safety incidents, 0 harm to anyone or to the plant. So I brought that to kind of show off for you that y'all do great things with us, but honestly, as we do work closer together and we blur the lines of who's Southern Company and who's an iron worker or who's a contractor, but we all get it in our minds that we want to work together and plan these things better up front and give ourselves the right time to do it, we have great results. So.
Great. Thanks so much. And now Ron from Ford.
So it's the
Oh,
slide
bring
I
up-
chose.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier about our senior management having a focus group with our primary suppliers. This was probably the straw that broke the camel's back that caused that meeting. We had an iron worker actually cut into an energized 480-volt cable, but why did that happen? And it should never happen. If you follow the not only Ford processes, but the contractor processes, it should have never happened. However, it did. And so if you can see by the left side picture, we were set up outside. This is something we do all the time. Cut the siding, make arrangements for the connection to expand the building. And it's a little bit hard to see on the right-hand side, but there was actually a conduit in there. So the siding was cut, the iron worker was up in a lift, and he went to set the mag drill to drill the holes in the existing steel, and says, oh, wait a minute, there's a conduit here that's in my way. I can't get my drill properly positioned, and something needs to happen with it, needs to be removed. It was not in his PTA to remove conduits. In fact, all of that was to have taken place prior to the day that this action started. And actually the electricians had gone through, had supposedly moved everything that was tagged to be in, that was known that was going to be in the way. And so the iron worker in the basket talked down to a superintendent, and the superintendent said, well, I understand all that is done already, let me check. He called the electrician superintendent, and that superintendent said, yeah, we've been through there, and everything should be clear. You should be good to go. Go ahead and cut it. And as he went to cut it, he felt a tingle, and it's a good thing that he did, and he stopped immediately. And we at Ford, of course, had to do a single point lesson. We had to do an 8D analysis. It's been a tremendous amount of time spent in understanding where did we go wrong. And so some of the things that went wrong is, had the plan been executed according to the PTA, everything would have been fine. But when things change in the field, everybody is responsible for understanding their role in that change, including the iron worker whose PTA did not include cutting electrical conduits. He should not have done it at all. He should have said, hey, this is not part of mine. We either have to go redo the PTA, or the electrician has to come back and verify that this actually was air gapped and that there was no power to it. So again, very fortunate that he was not harmed, but it's something that was taken extremely serious at Ford. We just cannot afford to have injuries, and this was a very close call. And so I wanted to share it with you. We just need to make sure that we follow the process. That iron worker that was up there should have just said, I am not cutting this, even though he was told to cut it. He has that responsibility. He has that right on Ford sites to not put himself in danger.
Very, very important. Ian, next. Let's get Ian's slide up, please.
Okay, so this is a module that probably many of you have seen on projects, and this is a success story from my standpoint. This is actually up in Edmonton, Canada, and as some of you, I know there was hands here, people from Canada, you probably work in that area, a very successful environment there to build new plants. We've currently finished a new hydrogen plant we built here in the last couple of weeks, and this is one of the modules. And what I wanted to point out here is some of the things that we probably take for granted. Yeah, that we fabricate stuff, we put it in a yard, we put it together, we ship it to the site, and we put it up. Well, it actually embodies a lot of things that are very important to us as the owner and also to you as the workers. So first of all, it makes the work very effective. A lot of the plants up in Edmonton are very crowded. They're either existing plants that we're expanding, or they have a very small footprint. So it's very difficult to do the historical stick build of materials and the equipment. So here we're fabricating it off-site using the same workers. It's just at a remote site where there's more control over the environment that the workers are working in, so it's typically safer, it's better quality of work. And so this module in itself, this is the fourth in a stacked up version that we had on the plant. So not only is it effective and efficient for us as the owner and you guys as the workers, but also it's a lot more safe. So they're doing a lot of the small work at maybe a 5 to 10 foot height, versus if they were stick building at the site, they'd be up 100 feet in the air. And even though there's a lot of safety tools involved in there, the higher you work, the more risk you have of being hurt on the job site. So I view this as a very big success. And the other thing that Edmonton embodied there, which is the local government actually helped out all of this too, because you can't build large modules like this. They're 300,000 to 500,000 pounds. You have to be able to transport them. So the local government put in the infrastructure so you could build these 10 miles away from where they actually end up at the various plants there, and they have the roads that are built up so that you can transport this safely on the roads without destroying them or breaking them up. So typically what happens, I think on this job we had 35 modules, anywhere from 200 to 500,000 pounds, and it was actually very effective every night. When we had them ready, one goes each night. The next day, the crane's on site. You know, there was a discussion here about a large crane the Southern Company has. We have to have those large cranes to set these down and put those in place. So very effective. It saves schedule, cost, and most importantly, it's probably the safest way of doing this kind of work.
Great, great. I think the owners have brought up a lot of the key issues that we wanted to discuss, such as quality, the skilled workforce of the iron workers, safety through modularization, the need for collaboration and communication, speed, how iron workers can deliver speed and workmanship, and very important, learning from near misses. So now I wanted to let's tackle sort of the tough question, and this was thrown out on the con call by Kevin Hilton, so I want you to know this is like, you know, coming from the iron workers, that from Impact, that they want to know the answer to this question. And it is, if leadership in your company were reluctant to use the Iron Workers Union and their contractors, what might be the reason? And it's okay to discuss the C word. I know there was some talk about what costs, and yesterday we had a speaker who said maybe costs are not as important these days, that owners care about a lot of other things, which they do, I'm sure, but what about the C word? So if just anybody who wants to answer that.
I'll say something about it. Southern Company, I don't think we have a reluctance to use iron workers or any of the contractors that use any of the trades. What's important to us about our contractors and the trade that come to the site is that they share our culture around safety, around working productively, around planning the work and setting yourself up for success. As far as cost goes, when we look at what we're doing, we like to say that we buy value. Because if you only go out there and buy on a cost basis, you miss a lot of the value that comes if you actually look and see what people are bringing to the table. And I'll tell you, when we look at the trades, especially with the iron workers, I mean, I went yesterday with Gerald to the 397 here in Tampa and saw their training facility. I've talked with Bart Maddox in Birmingham about the skilled labor, the certified welding instructors that they have, the welding schools that you do, the rigging. I mean, Mike Watson right here being one of your riggers and now one of our subject matter experts. So we see a lot of value in what we do in the way that we use the craft and our contractors.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, I think the key is that, you know, it's not necessarily just about the actual bottom line cost, because cost is more than just money that goes out as a reimbursable to a contractor. Cost is how does that contractor and the Iron Workers Union holistically deliver a job. So if you can deliver, I can tell you from Shell's culture, if you and your contractors impact the local Iron Workers Union, because we do have travel cards that come up maybe when the dollar's a little bit closer to par, but you know, we had U.S. iron workers come up over the years, and in the end, what it comes down to is if you can deliver on safety as an organization. It's not an organization as impact to the iron workers, it's impact the iron workers, locals, and the contractors. If you can deliver on our job sites and bring us ahead of schedule and below budget, that sends a lot of value, but more importantly, the safety. So I think, you know, we are under immense pressure in the oil industry to cut costs and to be productive, and it's not just saying, it's not about you just need to work for less, it's about you need to deliver more for at least the same, and at least that way we're getting a cost saving. So it's holistically, you know, so for example in Canada, and as a Canadian I don't like to say this, but I'll just be frank about it, our mega projects in Canada, not just Shell's, but holistically by the world is not viewed as, you know, the most amenable place to be building mega projects, okay? And as a Canadian that hurts me dearly because I'm trying to get investment into Canada. And so we need to have, and that's not a shot at the iron workers because it's a lot more complex than one craft union, okay? And one thing I want to say is the client is not always right, okay? So if we're wrong and we're offside, we need people to tell us. And I can tell you there is a reluctance, and I don't know about in the United States of America, but there is a reluctance in Canada for people to tell us, hey, you're offside and this is why. So it's not just about, you know, doing this, it's about working together. So I think that's where we can come to the cost model. You know, some effective overtime rates, things like that, we can work together. But I think that's where it's holistically, let's work together and not always think that, you know, the client is always right. And I think that would be a key for our projects, for our contractors and respective unions of those contractors, iron workers being one of them, telling us that we're offside if we are.
Great. One more.
So I wanted to comment on that. I think I brought it up to Jan. The cost is extremely important. And I heard President Dean say yesterday about innovative, and we are asking for the iron workers to be innovative in how they perform on our job sites. Safety is number one, but right behind that is cost. And at Ford, we pre-qualify all of our bidders, and once you're pre-qualified, then basically what drives the decision is cost. Unless you put something in your bid that disqualifies you, you disqualify yourself in a way, the bottom line is going to be the bottom line, and that's generally where we're going to go. And there's very, very few exceptions to that. And again, it's because once you're on our bid list, you've been pre-qualified, your safety record, your EMR, all those things have already been checked out, and you know, you meet our criteria. So cost is extremely important. And I would say, if I go back to 2008, 2009, when the recession hit, and you know, Ford reached out to the labor unions, and we created an automotive addendum. And in partnership with ironworkers, were one of the groups that really got behind us and said, hey, we're going to support you through this. We understand what you're going through. And you know, we did that for 5 years, and eventually we came out of it. Things are back to call it normal, or as normal as can be. And you know, I see that personally as a real win-win, as owners work together with contractors, working with labor, but it really was the labor side that supported us in that endeavor and helped us to get through that recession and helped us to come out on top. And again, I wanted to thank you guys for that and thank your leadership for it. As I said, they were one of the ones that stepped up right away and said, hey, we're behind you on it. But just one last comment on cost. Again, it's extremely important. If between contractors and labor we can figure out a way to drive down the cost, we're still going to spend the money. You're still going to have actually more opportunities at more sites. And that's what we would look for. We'd look for that innovation. It's a big word at Ford Motor Company now. Mark Fields is really on the word innovation. And we need to be more innovative in how we erect buildings, how we put them together, and whether it's through modularization or just, you know what, we're looking for you as the experts in your field to come and tell us if you see a better way to do it that will help us. You
want people to be productive, right?
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
I'd like to move on to another topic because we're kind of getting a little bit low on time, and you know, this is on the list, and I know it's kind of an initiative for the ironworkers because they're working on this issue, and that is diversity. And one on our list was the idea of whether your companies value diversity and the diverse workforce. Anybody want to chime in on that?
Well, from Shell's perspective, diversity and inclusion is what we call it, and you know, we constantly educate our internal staff about diversity and inclusion, and we actually do that vis-a-vis our contractors to try and encourage them to employ and get into apprenticeships underrepresented groups in Canada. First Nations being one of those underrepresented groups, women being another. So, you know, diversity is a key factor, and I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but I know effectively the First Nations Aboriginal population in Canada is the largest youth population to tap into for any occupation going forward with this big gap that we're talking about. So that's a massive access to young people, bringing them into the trades to obviously end up fulfilling your workforce. And I would say diversity and inclusion is something that you need to embrace because of the fact that contractors and the Ironworkers Union deliver highly qualified men and women who are trades professionals, and that's what you deliver. And if you continue to be short on our jobs and continue not to demonstrate that you can supply on our jobs, then that, again, back to cost, that becomes an issue because now we're assessing, saying, you know, the 1, 2, 3 contractor, you know, after 4 or 5 times being short and causing schedule delays, internally we're being asked, how come you keep hiring that contractor when they keep being short? So I'd say that's a benefit to the Ironworkers Union Impact to embrace that. And we embrace that at Shell, so we're there as a partner with you on that.
Great. Let's get in one other topic too, which is how and I know the clock is telling us we're almost out of time, but my watch is saying that we have probably 5 more minutes, so I'm going to take 5 more minutes. And because I wanted to also mention to relate this panel to the previous speaker, the two speakers ago, talking about the economy, Honor Bond, how often do you ever encounter a comedian economist? He's wonderful. But he's telling us, some real realities about the market these days, and I wondered how it's affecting any of your businesses, what you're seeing in the market, and also particularly the low price of oil, and is that impacting?
Well, that's had a huge impact at Ford, absolutely huge, because we sell many more trucks, much higher profit than selling a Focus or a Fiesta. And the low oil prices has a lot to do with that. If you look back, when the economy wasn't so good, it cycled the other way, and I'm sure it'll cycle through again. But the fact that we're not only, the market is anywhere from 17 to 18 million units, but it's at a much higher end. It's at a lot of SUV type vehicles, and that is totally driven by the fact that the fuel economy is there, not only in the vehicle, but also at the gas pump.
Mm-hmm. So in your market, lower oil prices.
Lower is better.
Construction.
Absolutely.
Tie that to construction. You're able to.
Well, construction workers who oftentimes have trucks, this really is a big boom for them, right? And as well as contractors that have fleets of trucks.
That's true.
Both from an ongoing operating expense, but also from just the initial purchase, and it's right now it's a good market for us. Yeah. Again, we all know it'll cycle, and
I see the thoughts going around in your head, Patrick.
Okay, they usually are. In the power industry, the low cost of fossil fuels is having a big effect, and it's really seen by construction folks. It's seen by customers as well. So are your power bills are getting lower? Hopefully, if your utilities are producing a lot of their power with natural gas. And our first speaker this morning talked about the Clean Power Plan. Between that and low natural gas prices, you're seeing an increased rate of coal plants either being set aside or perhaps demolished. So there's an increase in construction jobs to tear down the old ones and build the new ones. And the new ones are primarily natural gas combined cycle. Not as many jobs as it would take to build a coal plant, not even close, but still good work. And of course, you're seeing an increase in renewables as well. I will say, as most of us probably pay electric bills, it's nice right now with the cost of natural gas being down. Our bills are going down, but what we're losing is fuel diversity. And when natural gas prices do go up, because they probably will someday, we may be losing some of the buffer that we currently have as the entire utility industry in the United States, to balance with another fuel, and that's coal. Coal is a shrinking fuel for the entire country, and we may see that increased power costs, which would have a negative effect on jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So within obviously Shell being in the oil and gas business, we see not just Shell, but if you've picked up a newspaper or in this day and age read it on your iPad, you'll see that for this CapEx means capital expenditures towards capital projects, OpEx meaning operating expenditures for maintenance work. You can see if you even look at the industry turnarounds in Alberta, just on the turnarounds alone, they're cutting in half over the next 12 months. And every time you pick up the paper, some company is withdrawing CapEx from the market. And so, I'm pleased to hear that the ironworkers and Impact stepped up and helped Ford. I can tell you right now that in the oil industry in Alberta, if we've ever needed a helping hand from the labor unions with their contractor partners to help the oil industry, now is that time. And, we can talk about the relationship piece, but the challenge is a lot of times when these bids are looked at, it's being looked by somebody who doesn't have that relationship, who's looking at the dollars, and we're trying to show the relationship and the competitiveness of the contractor outside of just the dollars, but that is a difficult argument when oil's sitting at the price it is. So I guess that's a call of action to the Ironworkers Union and Impact, especially across North America, to say, if we've ever needed to cut costs and we need a helping hand, now's that time holistically. And believe me, it's not just the cost of labor that we're looking at when it comes to capital expenditures and capital projects and maintenance. It's a lot more complex, but you know, agree with it, disagree with it, or be indifferent to it. The bottom line is all of this stuff is all about people, and there's a lot of cost wrapped around it. So that would be my call to action for impact in the ironworkers going forward through this turbulent time that we're dealing with in the oil patch.
And Robin, you had mentioned something yesterday about having a lot of work and a lot of environmental related work right now, but so that's...
Yeah, so we're investing in our coal assets to keep them as that hedge against the natural gas. We like the all-in approach with our fuel sources. And I was talking with Jan last night and mentioned that really, when you talk about economic impact, low price of oil, all those things impact us as well, because what we're seeing in the Southeast is the load growth, maybe historically 2 to 3%, is dropped down to less than 1%. And we don't think that that is something that's necessarily just driven by the economy, because we also think there's a big disruptor here, and that is the technology that is now available to everyone, whether it's distributed generation, getting something in your home. I mean, many of you 5 years ago probably never would have thought about a rooftop solar, but maybe you're thinking about it. Maybe there's somebody in your neighborhood that's putting them in. LED lights. In Birmingham, I listen to Jock's Radio. It's talk radio for sports. About every 15 minutes, I have to hear a company come on and talk about saving everybody 60 to 80% on their lighting bill by changing out their lights for them to LED. All those things are great, and Southern Company's behind them. We're trying to get involved with it. With Power Secure, you may have seen we procured them, or looking to procure them as of last week. That's distributed generation play. We're working with the Googles of the world, working with AT&Ts, with smart cities. We're building, not only are we doing the environmental program, but some of you may be working at our nuclear site in Augusta, Georgia, where we're building the first 2 nuclear units. So we have a lot going on. As Patrick mentioned, the Clean Power Plan is going to shift work that may have been on an environmental side, but it's going to go to new generation. And you will see more gas plants, because they're the low price, quick to the market, get them on now, play, not only the nuclears.
Great, now the monitor's telling us wrap up, so I'm just going to invite Egan to get one more word in and give us our closing thought.
Okay, so like most people here have said, that we really appreciate all the work that you guys do. We've worked closely with you on many projects, depending on where we are in the world. As far as the economy that they talked about, as most people think it's not as good as it could be, if you looked at the charts that Anabana had, the U.S. is a lot better than most other countries and parts of the world. I know for our business, half of our business is here in the U.S., even though we do things globally. So it's a real opportunity. Appreciate working with all of you, because we do think that the most important thing to win more work, and which is what we want to do, to get you more work, is for us to work together and make the most competitive offering to our customers, and that's the way we get more business and you guys get more business. You want to make sure that you have that drive and see that as an opportunity, and not that having a job is more of an entitlement. It's something we all have to earn every day. I know I do that every time I get up in the morning. So with that, I know we're short on time.
Thank you, everyone. Let's give our panel a big round of applause.